liberty, and justice for all.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight.
I need that back.
So, I'm going to cut right to the chase. We got numbers and square footages on basically our first program assessments for the project. Came in a lot higher than I would have liked. I'm just going to start off by saying I'm a farmer, I'm a mechanic, and I'm on the municipal building committee. So we go through the program and the space needs. A lot of it I understand. There's a little bit of minutia I don't, but I can clarify. But what I really needed as an exercise from this committee is to boil down to dollars and square feet. And when we finally got to a point where I was seeing dollars and square footages, I was not comfortable. And I decided to bring it back to the Board of Selectmen for a review. Personally, my tax bill is between $6,000 and $7,000 for my home on a less than an acre. With the way things have escalated in the looks of the project as, kind of first conceived on paper with all, needs fulfilled and planning into the future, it's not a tax bill I want. So I brought it back before the selectmen for a review. With escalation, costs have gone up 30% since 2016. The economy's come back. Construction outfits aren't bidding these things low. We're outside of the city. These are all things that are counting against us. So do I, and I'm not speaking for the board, I'm just going to get my thoughts off my mind and turn it over to the rest of the board, and we're also going to get to public comment, but I just ask for everyone to please be patient for a little while until we get there so we can all kind of express our feelings so there's no misconceptions. While most of the spaces, can be justified as far as long-term planning, I just don't, maybe we can't afford to plan for 50 years out or 100 years out right now. I mean, maybe we can't. And, there's a thought of take it back to square one. I don't think we want to take it back to square one, but maybe we want to take it back to square 1.2 or 1.3. What I've done as the chair, I went back to a study, CSS, basically needs assessment, which wasn't as in-depth as what we've been doing lately, but it was a general needs assessment, and the square footages were much lower. I directed the architects to show me a building, or show me two things, either a renovation to town hall and a freestanding police station for our budget, plus the 30% escalation, which would put us somewhere at like 8.5. Because I want to see, it's important to know where we stand now with all our needs and future planning laid out ahead of us. And it's also important to know, with the reduction, can we live and function with what we end up with? So I've directed the architects to go back to square foot sizes, not perfectly, but more like the CSS study, and show me renovation and a freestanding PD. And I also want to see, again, a combination town hall and police department building, because what we've lost by going to a standalone police department and renovating the town hall is the combined savings of one heater, one AC, one electrical service, one sewer service. When we split into two, one elevator instead of two, because really no matter how we shake it out, elevators are going to be involved in the equation, because spreading the campus out farther to avoid having an elevator, all the exterior of the building adds up too much. You're not saving by doing that. There seems to be great savings in keeping the footprint smaller and going to a second story. So I don't want to get off, I don't want to totally remove from the table, maybe revisiting a combined building, because I really, as the experts were telling us all along, and as I've been finding myself on the municipal building committee, we're really missing out on some savings by not combining these two into one. Also tonight we're going to discuss some ballot language. The deadline for getting ballot language for town meeting to the state for review is tomorrow. and it came up on me quicker than I expected it to. So I wanted to include potential language for town meeting to include a combination building if that's where we end up. I didn't want to close the door on anything, just not knowing in regret. So, I mean, I'm looking for a reduction in price and size of the project myself. I'm not comfortable with that type of tax bill personally, never mind handing it to everyone else. And I wouldn't feel, bringing 14 million back to the voters, I wouldn't feel like I was listening. My job is to listen to the voters, and there's people on both sides of this issue, but I gotta listen to everyone and find a middle ground. That's what I consider my job. And I think the savings of a combined PD and town hall warrant looking at one more time. And I guess I'll turn it over. So basically the change ballot language is to leave doors open for whatever solution we end up at. So we're not precluding us, or I didn't want to close the door on maybe something we haven't even arrived at yet. So that's the explanation for the change in the ballot language. It's a little more comprehensive as far as a freestanding police station, a combo building, renovation. So, I mean, I don't know who wants to start. I'll turn it over to the rest of the board. If you can, my ideas, feelings, whatever, disregard them, rip them apart. I don't care. However you guys are feeling, I want to hear it.
I think that JR actually expressed at least pretty much how I feel, and I think he did a good job. I think what we have to remember is, I think it's Merrimack and other towns right now is in the process. A lot of towns, this doesn't surprise me. I know everyone's horrified, the circus is about to start, but this doesn't surprise me because a lot of towns try to do this type of planning. They put the segmented money out ahead of time for the OPM, the architectural engineer. They try to get their drawings ahead of time and then fight things back, which just seems like what we have to do now all over again. And if you remember, this town chose to try to do that, but it didn't get anywhere. So just remember, this process is almost happening all over again. And if we could have done it the other way, which was a lot of money, what was it? Was it like $690,000 or something we wanted to put out ahead?
Close to 1.2.
You know, to get ahead of it, to find out. And I don't blame people for being afraid to put that kind of money out to get your engineering done, but we're doing it now. We're finding the numbers, we're finding the figures, we're finding what we need to do to go backwards. So the process is really not anything that's that much different. It's just getting later and later because we didn't do it in the first place. Cost of borrowing money is going up. If we have another hurricane, it's going to be more than 30%. So, you know, probably doing it the way we're doing it, which is the way everyone chose to do it, is you know, a process that we'll have to attack. I think what JR is talking about is taking us back now with the OPM, the architect, the guys that really can put the number in these days and times to a space. I was one of the people that was on the 6.5, and I have to say it wasn't enough. I made a mistake. Is it going to be enough with the escalation of what it would have been if we could have got it done 2 years ago, which is now at 30%? Maybe, and that's what JR is saying he'd like to move towards. So at least we have an understanding of where we are. That's all we can do. We have some of our smartest people sitting on that board. Town planner, town administrator, all the chairs, police chief. You can't just throw, and the architect and the OPM, so you just can't say, wow, that's stupid. They did the best they could on what they were given and how they're going to do it. Now it's for us to kind of back things up and see if there's a way to do it. Trust me, if there's no way to do it, and we can't get the money to do it, it won't get done.
Yeah, I regret the fact that the board moved forward with the raising the money before we did the design work, because I think it set a false expectation, which has now riled a lot of people. I think it's our job to look forward to the best solution we can find. And if that requires eating some crow, then that's what we're going to have to do. I think the ballot language is a wise precaution at this point because we certainly need to adjust our thinking, and it allows us to do it in the most flexible fashion possible. So, how much we can cut from the building and still have a viable building, you know, through the process of the building committee, we've already been making cuts to what the police chief would like. I don't know how much further I'm willing to cut things. Just because, as we've always said, we don't want to have a dysfunctional police station the day that we open it. We have to find a solution to this problem. What the best solution is, I'm open to exploring.
Oh, I'm disappointed that the price tag came in so high. $14.5 million is not something that I stomach, or I don't think I could actually support. I would like to look at alternatives. I think almost going back to the beginning, and the beginning of the drawing board, and start over and just think about combining the two of them, thinking about shrinking it. I just think we need to talk about this. As far as the ballot language goes, if at the end of the day we come up with a solution that doesn't need this ballot language, we can always move no action on it on town meeting floor. So at least it's there in case we need it, and if, God willing, we can find a solution and we don't need it, then we just move no action.
I, like JR, have seen the tax bill go up and up and up, and we haven't seen the impact of the $6.5 million on the tax bill yet. We have a rough idea what it's going to be. Many years ago, I had brought up to buy the Apple building, which is owned by Apple Engineering, which is right over the bridge. And it was shot down. I was saddened by that. It would have been a very, very large building. It's 14,000 square feet, all ADA accessible. We let it go by.
Water over the dam.
JR called, find an alternative, bring it to the table. I looked the guy up, owns the building now. I called him, would you sell it? Yes, I will. He has to have an appraisal, come right out. He seems to think the appraisal will come in somewhere around 1.5 to 1.6. If we take the money that we are paying for rent right now, which is somewhere around $200,000 a year, put that towards a mortgage, and instead of the end of the year holding nothing, there's something tangible in your hand. We own the building. Years down the road, things look better, then go for a nice brand new state town hall. I think we should take the 6.5, tell the building committee, builds a police station for 6.5. If you cannot do that, find an OPM that will do it. That's my opinion, folks. I'm sick and tired of fighting this battle. It seems like I've been fighting it for near a decade. I frankly want to second it. That's my 2 cents.
Hey.
All right. Who'd like to speak first?
I just have a question.
Yes, Evelyn.
Chuck, are you saying put the hall in the Apple building
That would be my intent, yes.
and the police station, or just one thing?
No.
Just,
No, put the 6.5 towards a new police station, whatever square foot the 6.5 can go. That's just my personal opinion, that's not the board, that's just me, okay, folks?
Come on up, Joe.
Yeah,
I agree with Chuck in that maybe it's time to find another OPM, okay? And instead of looking at, okay, we'd like to have this and we'd like to have that and whatever, tell them, we've got $6.5 million to do this. Design the absolute necessary with the idea of expansion and easy expansion in the future. I mean, we've got $6.5 million, that's what people seem to have the stomach for to vote for. Okay, and right now, if you go up anything, there's no credibility. I mean, because the town has worked for a couple of years, and there's very little confidence in being able to complete such a project. I mean, the town has not been able to complete a launching ramp at the town landing. Okay, the materials were bought for it 3 years ago and nothing's happened. Okay, the town met with the people at Byfield, okay, and said, when we rebuild the bridge, we'll close down one lane. Didn't happen. Okay.
Who's the town?
I think it was Chuck and Tracy that were at that meeting. Were you there?
There was no meeting.
What?
There was no meeting.
According to the business owners, they said that their word out there is that the town administrator lied about it. Okay, so you're saying that they're lying.
That's
Okay.
not true.
I said there was no
That's not
meeting.
true.
Okay, so all the people, the businesses that complained about it, and I'll get that back from them, they were mistaken.
Dick, I will tell you that I have been to every meeting. Never did I ever hear that that bridge was gonna be closed for one lane. Never.
Okay, that's good. What about the launching ramp at the?
We're through permitting process. It was a much more strenuous permitting process that we had to go through.
Okay, so do you think that you're capable of building a $6 million thing instead of a $50,000 launching ramp? I don't.
Mayor, okay, one of the things we keep saying is a $6.5 million. If you really look into it deeply, we'll go $7.5. We had $900 some odd thousand put aside for engineering. Normally, that is all mixed into a municipal building project, okay? Plus also, we put the sewer in and paid for that. So in all actuality, only $7.5 million, if you really think about that,
That's true.
okay?
And the contingencies too, which all this is, when you head into these things with the municipal bid laws and all this stuff, I mean, they have contingencies if you run into rock or you have to do pilings. I mean, the whole process that we went into, as good a job as all the people did before us when we were trying to formulate what the price would be of this, we didn't have the real, you know, shoes on the ground people that tell us what it costs now of $500 a square foot municipal to do something. And it's I mean, if we were in New Hampshire, it would cost half that. So.
Evelyn?
Are the police happy with their, do they have enough space in the town hall?
I don't know about happy. Chief Riley and Deputy Chief Lucia told me that they will operate out of anywhere they tell us to. They're professionals. They know, you know, they know what's proper for a police department. They know what would be good to have. But they've also told me that, I mean, they're good. They've told me, you know, we'll make do with what we're given.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the answer I get. It isn't really about happiness or unhappiness. It's about doing the job. But having accommodations that are
Mayor,
decent enough.
I think they are happier when they were in the solid. I actually went to visit Andy Alice one day, and he was squeegeeing sewerage out the door. So, I mean, they were in a very cramped space, a very terrible space. So now that they're out there, they're upstairs, they're happier.
Well, what I meant was,
Happy.
could that be renovated, so that they could stay there and that?
Well, and I'm just speaking personally from myself, the answer to that is nothing's impossible. From what I've seen, there's nothing cost-effective about it. And my main objective right now is getting the cost down. That's why I'm personally going back towards a combined space. We're still solving both problems at a reduced rate. It seems, you know, most of the information that the experts in the field have given us along this process have proven out to be true, and one of them all along was combine, combine, combine. That's where the savings are, and the numbers I brought to the board and to the public last week kind of reflected that as a town and, you know, people, all of us together ignored their advice and split the projects up because it seemed simpler and, you know, in your mind it seems cheaper, but when reality strikes and, you know, you're putting hard numbers together on a project like this, the more you can squeeze under one roof and the more utilities you can share, that's where the real savings come in.
That's why I keep going back to the Apple, I choose to call it the Apple building, it's not that anymore. There's no construction cost to rise. It's already built. It's ADA accessible, change the phone lines, move in. We don't even need a moving company. We could oil up the dollies and push it across the hall, over the bridge for crying out loud. I mean, it's right here. So, sorry if I keep pushing on that.
Yes, so just come up and state your name because I don't know yet.
Dennis Casey, Elm Street. Have you been in touch with Bruce Town and Lenny on a meeting of everything here?
On the what?
On a meeting of trying to get some money?
Oh, a lot.
Okay. Did they get involved with a 10-year bond that Massachusetts has got, which is $3.8 billion? Which shows here right now, I mean, 2 years ago, Groveland just got involved, Newburyport just got involved.
What is it again? I couldn't hear you because it sounds good.
It's a 10-year bond, the Act 2018, Chapter 113. Okay, it's for Act in providing for capital facility repairs and improvements for the Commonwealth. Some of the ones that have asked their representatives to get involved to help build something, and some of them, like Groveland right here, asked for $1.5 million for a senior center. They got it. They asked for it 2 years ago. This is over a 10-year project, this money here. We got right here, we got Salisbury, got $1 million for the water main improvement. $750,000 just went for water main improvement in Merrimack. Well, this is cute, $1 million for the design, construction, and public restrooms at the current waterfront information booth of Newburyport. They got $1 million for it. Why can't we get some of it? Have we talked to the representatives? Have we been informed of them
We
to
have,
say we need help?
we've requested $350 for the bathroom, and I believe over $2 million for the public safety.
Okay, because I know that this is a 10-year bond.
Yes,
So that was,
Right. In the first 5 years, half the money goes out. What's not used is flipped back over. And anybody that applies, of course, you gotta stay in line, you gotta be in line for the thing. The earlier you apply, the better off it would be. And I don't know where this has been going, like Chuck said, this has been going on for years. How come we haven't applied maybe 5 years ago, it might have been up by now. When did we apply?
they sent us requests, I want to say within the last 6 months, but that was a 2018 appropriation, we couldn't.
This one is, yes, that's what's out right now.
Correct.
But it's from 2 years ago, and 3 years ago, and 4 years ago, some 5 years ago, that they've applied for it. I'm just saying, we wanted something done here many, many years ago. So when did we apply for the help? Just recently, or
So,
5 years ago?
if I might respond to that, I spent a lot of time in the State House trying to find money for this, hoping to find grants. The grant that I was able to find was a rural community grant, which is at a lower interest rate than that one for a 30-year term. That was the best financing I could find for this. After spending
was that the Farm Bureau thing?
Yep.
Yeah.
months searching through, there was no, I was hoping there were just grant money, that the state would support building these vital infrastructure pieces. They don't just give out money to communities. It's a bond. We're going to pay it back. We have a better interest rate on the bond that on the Farm Bureau rate than that bond that you're talking about.
Okay, but if we get extra money.
But it has to be paid back though.
But the bond
It's gotta
is
be
just
paid
a
back. I
loan.
understand it's gotta
That's-
be paid
that's-
back, but I mean, they
It's a
gotta be
loan.
help, they gotta show help with, on individual stuff too. I mean, because some of these towns that they gave money to was a lot smaller than this town.
But you can also apply and sit and wait and hope, and you don't get it, too. I mean,
Oh, that's
it's not
true,
given.
but we've been waiting for 15 years now, so I
So,
mean,
but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I see that as two separate things. One is the building and what are we gonna build, and the other piece is what you're speaking to, is how we're gonna pay for it. So, I mean, bonding, if we can get, a bond is a mortgage. So whether we go out to bond ourselves, or we get this 10-year grant, we still have to pay it all back. It still doesn't answer the question of how much are we gonna spend on the building.
The right
Do you know what I mean?
oh yeah, I understand, that goes down to how much you actually need, how much room do you need.
Now,
There's a lot of room around town here that's vacant. I mean, this is part of it here, as far as a meeting room, and I'm sure the fire departments, the rest of the stuff has some other rooms available, so. I don't know if we need them all that big, but, yeah, we do need a new building or, reconditioned or something like that, I understand that, the conditions down there have not been that good. But, we gotta move on it, we gotta do something, whether it's gonna be a little bit smaller that we can afford, or like, Mr. Kobe said, taxes are gonna go crazy, and half this town, 3/4 of the town are seniors. So, you're gonna either look at a lot of people that's not gonna be able to pay, and the tax is not gonna be there, or we're gonna look at a big turnover in town,
It's already happening.
and I think it's happening now. I mean, a lot of people wanna try to get into some place, because they can't afford to stay in their own house.
Thank you. All right. Do you want to speak, Bob?
No, I think it was just that this wasn't an outright grant. You still had to pay the money back. That
Yeah,
was
just
that was the point.
Yeah.
Gee, I think we ought to also talk to the fact that these things took time, but we weren't like outlandishly off the time frames of what it takes for an architect and an engineering, OPM to put this stuff out. So, I think, once again, I go back, I wish we had done it the other way, but we're kind of where we are now because of the way we did it. And I think it's behooves us to do the best we can. I mean, I think your board is receptive to building what works best for the best amount of money. Honestly, there are some folks that have said, take the 14 million right in, take it in, put it on the ballot, let it go, because if it gets turned down, fine, then you go back and start out again, the whole thing. So, I mean, some people are gonna be mad at us, honestly, for not taking the OPM and the engineering and that product forward and putting it on the ballot. But right now, you have a board that's responding to the fact of trying to get the most utility out of a structure. And we do have one building here, I mean, Chuck's got a point over there too. So, I mean, this is where we are. But we're being as responsive as we can. And Damon, I can remember going with Damon in the State House a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
sitting there while he was talking to Bruce Todd. So we've been at this a while.
And to speak to Chuck's Apple building proposal, it's not, I think it's something that's worth looking at. I'm not comfortable with his declaration that we stop at 6.5 for the police station. I'm not comfortable with the idea of building a police station that isn't big enough on the day we open it. We've seen other towns do it, they regret it instantly. If we're gonna have trailers outside our brand new police station the day that we open it, I don't wanna be any part of that.
But that's what JR is driving at with having the architect give us that. What's 6.5, and we're talking about the escalation on top of it because of the things we said before, such as they want to put into a normal building package contingencies that you have to drive by. I mean, all these things and these upcharges you get. If you find something and you don't have something there to go forward on it, then you gotta go back to the people for money anyway. So that's how, you know, it's not the fact that we're overlooking the 6.5, but the 6.5, the value of 6.5 now, because it's been 2.5 years, is 30% less. So if you add soft costs and contingency, it straightens it out and the cost of borrowing money, so. And that's a question if we decide to do that, that once again, you guys will decide too. You guys decide everything.
Tell me and the ballot decide.
You guys decide everything.
Through that.
I mean, vote it down or up.
Fred.
Okay,
Oh, sorry, other Fred. Okay, you.
which Fred?
You.
Thurlow.
Oh, okay. I got a couple comments. I think most people have heard some of my major comments, which that I think the police department's pretty happy where they are, and that probably could be made into a permanent police station without too much effort. But that's not really what I'm going to talk about at this moment. And that is, I'm not too comfortable with this architect. I look at this plan, and I see a multi-roof building right off with a cupola on the top, which maybe the cupola is for the elevator, but of course, for 2 stories, you'd use a hydraulic elevator and you would not need a cupola. But a multi-roof building, like the one in Salisbury, for instance, is a lot more expensive to build than a standard 2-roof, hip roof, not hip roof, regular roof building. So I don't think they spend a lot of attention into saving us any money.
There was a lot of effort put into aesthetics to make it try to fit into the
That's what I was
character
afraid of.
But, I mean,
That was not what we intended. We intended a functional building. I thought we made that point pretty clear, but maybe not.
the uglier the better.
No, that's not necessarily ugly. It's not necessarily ugly.
I mean, looks matter a little bit.
And then I look at the plot plan they drew, and there's a lot of wasted pavement here for no use whatsoever. I could have got 14 more parking spaces in this plan than they got. I don't think they put a lot of effort into this. I think they just wanted a higher price, and that's what they got. I support Chuck's idea. I think Chuck's got a good idea there. And even if you don't buy that building and you stay here, it's still a good idea, because at $200,000, you can't beat this. There's no maintenance. You know? This is economical space.
But it's not 200 forever. The last time.
No, I know
The
that.
last time we re-signed the lease, it increased. The next time we'll sign the lease.
I
it'll
realize
increase.
that. I realize
And
that.
I imagine.
That's why I say Chuck's idea is probably a pretty good
I
idea.
imagine Mr. Kelly's pleasure at having us trapped here.
How many years is the lease for?
3 or 5?
3 years at a
Right.
time? When's it up now?
We got 2,
We have
we got 2 more
1 year
years. I
at a
think.
2 more years there?
But a lot of us complain that, we gotta go way over to Byfield, in the far end of Byfield to boot, to get to town hall, but we're all used to it now, and if we go to the other building on the other side of the highway, it's, we're used to it. I think it's probably a good idea.
Fred Davis.
So here we are. July 31st, 2018. I really think we should go from here. Never mind what happened last year, 5 years ago, here we are. I think we should, when you say the cost went up 30%, what is the square footage of the new design of the new police?
Where we at right now? I don't have all my materials in front of me, I apologize.
13,000.
So is it my misunderstanding that they've gone up 30% in the size of the police station?
Oh, yeah, a lot.
But the escalation is right. Basically, given the assessment exercise, the size has gone up, yes, but the price per square foot has gone up about 30%.
I think it was originally around 500 and it's still around 500.
Originally,
500 to begin with.
Well, that's what I get, but anyhow.
it was 350, I think, right? 370, something like that.
So I mean,
bond out now, and whatever amount you decide on, what do you think the interest rate would be now, please?
The latest quote we received from my financial advisor was 5%. So that's gone up considerably too.
And things are projected to,
That's estimated on the high side.
So I don't think it's a good idea to look past tennis. You know, it seems to me like the majority of the Board of Selectmen is in favor of taking a good look at a standalone police station within that amount. You know, we built a building in Byfield 20 years ago, the library, and there's still issues with it today. You know, it's not so much the size of the building as it is the quality of the building. You know, you ask, I don't want to get off in another tangent, but Salisbury and Rowley are in a mess. They're in a mess. And for 5 years, people of this town have come to you time and time again and said, please build a standalone police station. If it costs more to do it that way, that's irrelevant. That's what we've asked for. We asked for a standalone police station from day one. And I believe that if you ask for another override, we're going to have to go back to square one. You have the $6.5 million now. You have it. You know, I don't see why you couldn't build an 8,500 to 9,000 square foot police station. And if somebody is against it, that's their problem. You know, we need to move forward here at some point. You know, the cost may have gone up because of us. The cost may have gone up because of you. It's irrelevant. You know, it's time to do something now. So I say, we give the Board of Selectmen a week, next week, and whatever you decide, you decide. But you know, I like what JR said, I like what Alicia said, I like what Chuck said, you know, and it's my understanding that whatever the majority wants, it will be. So, anyhow, that's it.
anyone else like to speak? Jim?
I'd like to talk about options that we just talked about in the last 10 minutes. First, the Apple building. Are you saying that building's for sale now and available?
The gentleman said he would sell it, yes.
And how big is it and how many floors?
2 floors.
The square footage?
Believe it's 14,000.
Total, 7,000 per floor or something?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So that's an option, and if you did that, what would it be used for?
Say that again, sir.
What would you be used for? Would you use it for police? Would you use it for town hall? Or?
Town hall.
Oh, no, okay. Moving on to the second option I heard. JR, you were talking about a combined building. Combining what?
This would be a tear down of the Morgan Ave current town hall
Yeah.
and a combined police and town hall building, because I think we can get much closer back to the budget by combining.
That,
And we solved the problem of that building. If we build a standalone right now, and we move into the Apple building, if we've still done nothing about the old town hall building. There's still another piece of the puzzle and
Right,
another
I'm
problem to
just
solve.
trying
Just
to-
give me 1 second, and I'll turn it right back to you. Right now, we have the designers and architects. I want to clarify one thing. The architects will do what we tell them. It's not disobedient architects or OPMs. I want to clarify that right now. That's not going on. We can save by combining the two. That's why the idea appeals to me now. Putting $1 million or $2 million into that old town hall building to make it good enough or usable. The more I see and the more we get down this road, it's making less and less sense to me. And advice from experts in the field all along have told us, and I know I'm being repetitive, there's savings in combining. There's savings in combining. As a town, we chose not to listen. and we are feeling that effect. Right now, we have architects and designers hired, so we can get a design, we can do a lot of this at the same time. If we leave the old town hall building for later on, the cost per square foot costs are gonna go up and up and up. It's not gonna get easier, it's not gonna get cheaper. And I understand the thought for keeping it basic, keep it to a standalone police station, so it's palatable and we just get something done. To me, that thought is irresponsible, because we're not addressing all the problems that are before us. It's like, I want to resolve this. I don't want to kick it down the road for another administration. I don't want to kick it down the road for other people my age. But it's got to be affordable, and that's the path I'm seeing right now, is to revisit the combined facilities. And we should have numbers on those facilities. When's our August meeting? Is it the, you know, they think they can have us numbers on those two options by our August meeting.
So could I ask Eric?
Could I finish?
Yeah.
So second option would be tear down the existing town hall, build a combined police and town hall. That was as much detail that Eric had put together a couple of years ago. That's information still exists. I just want to understand the options. The third one was build a standalone police station and renovate the town hall.
Correct.
So that's what we've talked about. Are we going to look at all three options?
We looked at the first one already, and we're about to look at the other two, so I guess the answer to that is
The
yes.
first one you looked at was the Apple building, is that the first option?
I mean, the Apple building, I gotta digest it. I've never even been inside it, so I can't give that a thumbs up or a
I
thumbs
just
down.
sprung that on everybody tonight. Nobody has heard this
I've never set
before,
foot in the
so-
building.
Chuck, what would be the approximate cost, you think, for that? $1.5 million or $2 million?
It has to go out to appraisal. His best guess was 1.5 to 1.6.
1.5 to 1.6.
That was a guess.
Okay.
But then it's gonna have to be work done inside it to renovate it, to make it work for the town hall, right?
I disagree with that. I think we just change the phone lines, move the partition, move it in.
Chuck, the guess was by who? The owner, or who was that guess by?
Yes, I talked directly to the owner of the building.
Okay. So we have an order of magnitude today. I understand, Jay, you're gonna move ahead, and by the end of August, you're gonna have re-proposal on two instances combined.
Well, it would be a rough, you know, it'd be a concept like,
I understand, but I'm trying to understand where we're gonna be a month from now and what we're trying to accomplish in the next month. And I understand it could be threefold, but at least twofold. The standalone plus the tear down town hall and the combo building. And they're gonna have a month from now to redo the numbers and come back with something. And on a standalone town hall, it also include the renovations, not only standalone police, but the renovations to town hall. That would be included also. In one option, standalone police department plus renovations to town hall.
right, which we're looking at now. But it's still, it's gonna be two, right, similar project, lower price tag.
Okay, in the end of August is when you hope to get something in here.
Correct.
For your meeting at the end of August.
Correct.
The first comment I make on what we just talked about there was, I've seen the town struggle for 3 years getting going around in circles. They're very good at going around in circles. My guess is that at the end of August, we'll be no further advanced than we are today, although we will have more information. It's always good, data and information is always good to have. And I say that based on what I saw pass out last Tuesday night, a week ago, was inadequate information on an estimating basis to even start down a path. There's not enough detail on what you're doing. The site work, number one, should be broken out as an estimated number. The town hall renovation should be broken out so many square foot at a breakout number, and the new construction should be a breakout number. And then, of course, the new police station should be is brand new construction, and that would be a separate number. These are not difficult to come up with, but because I haven't seen that in the past, I don't know if you can do it in the future.
Part of that might be for the fact of me hitting the brakes.
Well,
I
on
think
this.
they were there. Those figures were there. I can remember seeing them.
These figures are not in the handout last week. These figures are very misleading. Again, there's not enough information, believe me, in what you have. And if you do nothing more than hammer numbers, and get them in an Excel spreadsheet, you'll be vastly further ahead today, not a month from now, than you are today. Again, this is not difficult. Any number of people in this room could probably do it and put an outline together, and the numbers could be fed in over a 4-week period. Bob here could do it in 2 hours. You go home tonight and tomorrow morning you have it all done. But what I'm saying is, this is the information that starts good conversations and establishes credibility, okay? Which I've seen in the past, things come up and you start asking questions about the details, and the fact is you can't get good answers, and your credibility falls apart. But let's go to the report that was handed out last Tuesday.
We're not,
But look, JR, this is important. On page 2,
Jim, what's important is you're not seeing anyone doing somersaults under the information received. That I don't understand what rehashing the old meeting in $14 million is really going to do for us when you're not seeing something.
here's what I'm saying. I'm trying to make a point, and I can in a few minutes if you can.
Well, please get to the point.
On page 2, you have current program for the police station at 11,549 square feet. On page 9, you have 13,000 square feet. So the obvious question is, which is the right answer?
Program and actual are different numbers.
Well, explain them to them.
Program is the space needed square footage wise to accommodate each individual room. So the chief's office, to have a desk and a chair, has to be this big, a bathroom has to be that big. Actual is you have to have a hallway to get to the bathroom. That adds square footage that's not part of the program. So actual is always bigger than program.
And studs in the wall.
So what's the multiplier?
I'm not an architect.
Usually 25%, Jim, is taking that
The
square
multiplier
footage
is simply
25.
13,000 divided by 11,549. The
Jim,
multiplier is 12%, you're adding 12%. Eric, does that?
Jim, we'll have many more figures. We'll have the architects here in August. You can grill everyone to your delight. I mean, I have no interest in rehashing where we're at. That's why I hit the brakes. And we can get into facts and figures and try to get you and all this stuff.
That's
Get you
good.
nowhere.
But if we hand the same thing out next time, and these are the same action items that need clarity, they shouldn't be passed up.
All right, thank you, Jim.
So,
The
I just
project,
wanted to ask
No,
Eric
I-
one question. Could I ask him a question? Didn't we always base this on $500 a square foot, Eric?
No, it was beaten down. I wanted 435 at the time, and we ended up with like 390. So the
It's
estimate,
not really that far off. It's 475. So you were pretty close.
yeah, I was pretty close, but no one wants to believe me every time. So,
Like I said, a lot of the advice we've gotten from industry professionals has panned out to be true in the end. Yes, sir.
so everything behind us, because we looked at everything. We've looked at 14 sites across town. We looked at a new building. We could have bought the Apple building for $1 million the first time it was for sale. And we have a study and a plan that shows how the police station could fit in there. So we can find that in the files and have that. It's all been done before. How did we get to 6.5 million? We picked the lowest common denominator budget, and we went forward with it. And at that meeting, the report says 6.2 to 9.2 million for standalone police station renovations to town hall. And we settled on 6.5. Alicia, you asked me, can I guarantee this? And I said, no, I can't guarantee this. This is a standalone police station, and it's something at the town hall. And we go back and look at the tape. But it's something, and the something at town hall, with the escalation, with a confirmation of program, is a lot less than anything that can be made to move back into town hall. That's the reality of 6.5 million. If in this with lowest common denominator and think you're gonna save some money and open it up to the public bid and think you're gonna get quality out of it, out of the way it's run.
So would you prefer quality to quantity?
I would prefer quality, because quality over the long haul is gonna save money. And the whole premise of the previous committees all was about combining buildings to save on square footage and to save on things like maintenance and cleaning services and all that. That, you know, there was 2.6 million identified in a combined building, whether it was town hall, police, fire, and that failed. At one time, Tracy, we were talking about getting, we went down to see, Jeff, who did we go see at the State House? We went to go see Bruce, and we had the people from
Rural agricultural funding, I forget the acronym actually.
right, so they had money, they had billions of dollars to loan out at 1.6%. And Tracy did a bond thing right after that, and they were like at 1 or less than 1, because it's just the right timing of the market. So we were at 1% financing, now we're up to 4.5 to 5. But that's all passive. So we need to make a statement on quality. You just need to pick what you want to do, stand alone. And you're right, JR, I think you know, you can go look at the Apple building, we can bring that forward. We can take the new and give it to the architect. The information that I had, and probably it was my fault that I own up to it, is that I extrapolated and crafted multiple options to serve and present. And maybe that wasn't the best idea, just should have said, look, this is the one project and that's it. But we came up with a gazillion projects. We can certainly bring those forward, and we can have contacts which does these buildings all the time, and they can then, and they will, Jim, they will bring an estimate that breaks everything out by line item of, so you can see exactly how much is in landscaping, and we can decide whether we want 1 inch or ½ inch or no trees, and take the step to get on budget. But with that, there will be some quality recommendations, and you're gonna have to, you know, decide. So, we have a lot of stuff, you just need to figure out put it on the table, what the options are, let's get the information, the context, and let's let them present. You know, Jim, the grossing factor, as Bob said, is something that you put in the estimate to get a real building out of just program spaces. And then it's proven out, and you actually have a plan on a site that starts in conceptual and then gets firmed up as you go through the design process. So at conceptual schematic phase, we're early on. It doesn't mean that it can't be improved, but it is a realistic assessment of where the building is headed, and it's laid out. If you do, you know, if you compare costs to Salisbury or Merrimack or Rowley, and you take a police station that's a single floor that's spread out, grossing factor may seem a little bit lower if they have a single loaded corridor, but your exterior number is going to be higher because the shape of the building requires more of an exterior perimeter to build. So there's lots of ways to slice and dice numbers. The fact is you need to understand them, and I think we need to understand them in a much bigger picture than picking apart line items at the moment. And you know, we certainly can find comparison projects by other towns that are anywhere from 8 to 20,000 square feet, and understand what they have for programs versus what the chief has vetted through for a program. And we can clearly identify the spaces that are bigger or spaces that we have that they don't have. I think, you know, there's a couple extra spaces that we just didn't have identified last time, like the garage is one. The garage, you know, was serving as a space fire station and served as a temporary trailer at the moment. So there are some program increases. Part of the ad is escalation, part of the ad is just square footage. And a little bit of the ad is just the reality of having an architect put together a real plan with more information.
Thank you. Bob, I'm on the building committee, and just to give you some background, I think we've met 3 times. Anyone familiar with public bid? You do an RFQ for an architect or an OPM. You don't get to actually pick your favorite. It's still a bid process, same thing with the contractor. contracts, I'm actually very impressed with, and checking them out in some of their other projects, the level of detail. Their finished drawings exceed 92, 93% completion. In an industry where 85% complete is considered industry norm. The OPM also is qualified and responsive. The things that we can't control are construction escalation and the bond rate. What we can control is the square footage, because it's all a multiple. So that's where we have to drill down on. What investment do we want to make in the town as town members? And believe me, at every meeting, the word taxpayer impact is brought up. And as these costs and square footages have creeped, that's always been on the forefront, because certainly I'm a taxpayer, everyone on the board is a taxpayer, and I think the marching orders from previous votes has been clear. To the credit of the committee and to the board, this is so preliminary. When this went in a direction that was outside the norm, it was, don't waste any more time, bring it back, have a public hearing, air it out, get input, and then move forward. So I think all of the steps that have been taken so far, have been good ones. And I think having this meeting tonight, the selectmen are laying this on the table. They're not saying we're going to go to town meeting and try to get more dough. They're going to go to town meeting and they're just going to go back to the ballot. So everyone in this room, and all of us, and our neighbors and other residents, have 100% voice in what happens. And my greatest fear is the more time we burn, and it's to your point, Jim, interest rates are clicking up every quarter by 25 basis points. That's the real taxpayer impact, because that's the next 30 years. So whatever we decide to do or not do, we've got to do it quickly. But I think the purpose of this meeting tonight is to create some verbiage so that we cover our bases. We're not finalizing anything tonight, but it gives the selectmen an opportunity to have a ballot question on upcoming election. So if we go forward and we decide at town meeting that we want to get more money, and maybe it's only to cover the cost of construction escalation. We've laid that groundwork. And the same thing, I don't know what your timeline is for warrant articles for the SDM, but you're worried about the fall election ballot. That's
Tomorrow's the deadline.
That's the real thing here that's going on tonight. But I think you've heard full disclosure on where it's at, where it can go, or not go. But that's going to be decided by all of us, not just by a few of us. So but I wanted to make sure that I think the architects are solid, I think the OPM is solid. The construction costs, Jim, to date, have been an average of the last 6 bids that have gone out for similar type police stations. It's not a breakdown of each component, each schedule. It's the quick ballpark number that gave us guidance to see where we were for budget. Because at the end of the day, we're going to live within the budget. And that's just the way it's going to be. So I just wanted to put that out there so that everybody has an understanding. And the meetings, they're at 7 a.m. usually on Fridays. But they are televised, and
Bob brings donuts.
if you come up, you get coffee and donuts too. So, but thank you.
Well, I got a question. One thing that's...
Joe, I need to recognize you if you want to
Okay,
speak.
I'm sorry.
I know we reverse roles.
I'll shut up.
No, go ahead.
The question I have for Bob, when you're speaking, is having meetings and stuff like that. And it's been the growth of the town hall, and one item people grumble about, okay? Do you know what that would be?
Joe, I've heard a lot of grumbling, so...
All right, it's the
this may be a new
2,000
one.
square foot meeting room in a police station. A lot of people don't think that you should have a meeting room in the police station. It's not the function of public safety. So anyway, that would be, that would be something.
It's also the emergency operations
Yeah,
center,
and
but
it's not
it's dual
2,000,
purpose.
it's not 2,000 square feet, it's only
And
1,200.
the roll call room.
On one of the handouts, it was 2,000. It is.
And here
I
it's
can look at it right here, it's not 2,000 square
1,200
feet.
I have.
But Joe, to your point, it gets to a point where that you have your mandatory requirements, you know, detention,
Okay.
all of that stuff, and then you build up from there. One of the hard things about putting a building together is the operational items you need on ground level, processing a prisoner or your evidence storage or fingerprinting or the cells, all have to be on ground level. Now what happens is sometimes that footprint, it doesn't necessarily mean 50-50. So even if you had a 5,000 square foot two-story building, that first floor may have to be 6,000 square feet. One of the things the committee voted on was, we looked at these multiple roof lines, 1.5 stories, and as those of us that are in the business, two-story building, fairly steep pitched roof, you get a third area for storage. We call it the Salisbury model. We voted unanimously as a committee to give guidance to the architect, because it's the most cost effective, it's the most efficient construction cost. So those are just some of the things that you're looking at, but this is at its infancy. I mean, we've only met I think 3 or 4 times, and the architect just got this information back because we've been pushing for schedule, budget, cost.
Anyone would like to speak that hasn't been heard yet? No. Go, Fred, go ahead.
I just don't think that the town really has an appetite for another override. You know, if we're gonna have to pay 5% interest, and somebody said it's going up 25 basis point a quarter, so you really want to take a chance on paying 7% interest? I mean, you already have the money. You have 6.5 million, and it is enough to build a standalone, conservative, well-constructed police station. We have 7,000 people. I know people in this town that are 70, 80 years old. In order to stay here, they're having to have reverse mortgages. They have nothing to give their kids, their grandkids. Who are we building this for? The people from Newburyport or Boston? Or do we want to keep our families and people in this town? It's been the same thing. All we ask for is a conservative, standalone police station.
Even if it costs more to solve the
Even
town
if it
hall?
costs more, that's what we've asked for, time and time and time again.
Fred, it's what you've asked for. There are a lot of people who are not in this room because they're younger. They have kids. They're putting their kids to bed.
It's not, I've been to every meeting you've had here, and I have not heard one person stand up and say, yeah, we love this multiple building. Never heard one.
Then you're not listening, Fred. There are a lot of people who did want the multiple building.
Where are they?
They're not here tonight.
Okay,
So to
I'm
say
sorry,
that
I'm
you're
sorry.
the only voice and the only way is inaccurate.
Okay, then put it back on the ballot again.
Yeah, let's go for the 14. Let's try it.
Would anyone like to be heard that hasn't spoken yet? Okay.
I move that we put the ballot language, where is it? I move that we bring the debt exclusion language to the state for a ballot initiative.
Second. Good discussion?
You're the chairman, how can you say?
Do we want to read it?
Do we have it?
Yeah, I have it.
You want me to read it?
Go ahead, you're the clerk.
So the form of the debt exclusion ballot question would be as follows. Shall the town of Newbury be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called the amounts required to pay for the bonds to be issued in order to pay costs of either 1, designing, constructing, and originally equipping a new police station, and either remodeling, reconstructing, and making extraordinary repairs to the existing town hall, or designing, constructing, and originally equipping a new town hall, or 2, designing, constructing, and originally equipping a new combined police station and town hall facility, and for the payment of all other costs incidental and related thereto, as may be determined by a vote of the town meeting adopted prior to the date of this vote. Does
Any
anyone
dis-
have any questions?
Any discussion?
So
Can I
with
ask a point of order?
Sure.
What rules of operation do you operate under?
Roberts.
Robert's rules?
Okay, for your satisfaction, I rescind my second. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion?
So we're discussing it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I just read this, and I just wanna, so this is, I just gotta, and there's a lot of words, and I just gotta get it clear in my head. So there's one and there's two. So it's or. So the amount required to pay for the bonds to be issued in order to pay costs of either one, designing, constructing, and originally equipping a new police station, and either remodeling, reconstructing, and making repairs to the existing town hall, or designing, constructing, and removing a new town hall. Okay, so that's the first one. And the second one is designing, constructing, and originally equipping a new combined police station and town hall facility, and for the payment of all of the functions. Okay. Okay, I understand it. It's chunked. I think this is good, and I think it'll give us options on the town meeting floor. It'll give us something to speak to, and if we decide not to go this route, we just have to move no action.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.